What's up, everyone? Today we have the Stihl FS45 that I've been working on. Made a video or two on it, and the situation that we're coming in, I just put a new carb on there, and even with the new carb it still is not running. Now this is going to fix this problem. Stay tuned to the end. I'll tell you a couple reasons why it still might not be working, but I do believe the reason why for this one is the tuning. Now just a couple things you need to check before you continue. First one is the fuel. Is it new? I don't mean like it was new a few months ago. I mean it was empty. You went to the gas station, filled up your tank, put oil in it, and then after you're done mixing it all on the same day or within a couple weeks at the very latest, then poured it into the machine and then you install the carb. If that's the case and it still isn't running, continue on. We'll get this figured out. Second one we're going to check is a spark arrestor. Now this is going to be generic. This is not only for the Stihl. Should make that very clear. It's just a general weed eater that we're going to be talking about. It just happens to be a Stihl, but every single one of them will have something called a spark arrestor. This one's a little easy to get to. It just requires a socket. So first things first, I'm going to take out the spark arrestor and we're going to look at it together. Anyone who's seen my videos before probably realizes I'm not a Stihl fan, but just to prove, this is the carb that came off of it. It probably could have been cleaned, but I opted to buy a new one. Having said that, pretty much the only good thing about Stihls I could say is usually their spark arrestor comes off pretty easy. Sometimes you do have to take like this little cover off and take some screws out. Don't get me wrong, Stihls you also have to do that with some of them, but some of them like this one, all we need to do, see how hot this is. Now it's just getting stuck in there. Do it the hard way. Anyway, so spark arrestor is something that comes with any 2-cycle machine. And that's what it is. It's just a screen. Now that screen, while it looks black and nasty, isn't all that bad. That's not going to be the cause of our problem. If it was completely plugged, you can't see through it. Because right now, if you can still see my hand. It's not 100%, but you can still see through it. It's not perfect. I'm still going to give it a clean because it's already out. How I'm going to clean it is I'm going to take a torch, get it red hot. The red hot will burn everything off. I blow it off, I put it back, and then we'll continue on to step 2. And for reference, this is what it looks like when it's clean. You can still see through it, as I said, but now it's just cleaner. So I'm going to get it back. Due to the fact that carb's already on the machine, it's going to be harder to kind of show it, so I'm going to show you on the one that came off. Let's see, yeah. So, engines here, air filters on the other side. What we have here is the idle set. That just controls the speed of the idle when you don't have the trigger pulled. That could be part of the problem, probably not though. Majority of the time it's going to be these. This is the low. The low is always closest to the engine, and the high is always closest to the air filter. So, what we're going to do is you have to look at your screws. If yours has these annoying black pieces on there that allow you to not screw anything in, cut the little knobs off if you choose to. You're not supposed to, but cut them off if you can, if you choose to. What we're going to be doing is we need to tune it. Imagine this. You live in the mountains of Colorado, or at least a high elevation in Colorado, or wherever there's a high elevation. That's the closest one to me probably, besides an actual mountain. And then you take a short trip to like pretty much next to Death Valley, California. Do you think the elevation is going to be a tad bit different? Do you think that carb is going to work exactly the same way as it did in a couple thousand feet? I don't know how tall that area is compared to whatever Death Valley is. Below sea level, I'm assuming. Maybe exactly sea level. Not really sure. not a geography person, but I know the elevation is different, a lot different. So what we need to do is we need to tune it to your specific location. Ideally, the weather should also be basically the same as when you're going to be using it. This is a weed eater, so I use weed eaters in the summer and spring and fall. The temperature doesn't range all that much, maybe 30 to 40 degrees, which yes can make a difference, but there's a big difference between if you're doing this in January 15th when it's like negative 15 outside, and July 15th when it's like 105 outside. That's a big difference. So what we're going to do is we're going to tune it. So let me show you what this one's doing. Right now we have, it's kind of warm. I did kind of try to get it started, and it's kind of prompted idea for the video. So there we are. But let's see if it will run without choke. Kind of. But not really. What I had to do last time is hold down the throttle. I'm going to do that now. So that's what that does. The colder it is, the faster it would die. The warmer it will, the longer it will take to die. But to be honest, it's still gonna die. You need to look at a couple things. I made a tuning video on how to tune a 2-cycle. If you want it more in depth, what I'm about to get into now, definitely check that out. However, I see a little bit of blue smoke under idle. That's not super, that can be misleading. Blue smoke means a rich condition usually, or it could be that there is excess oil in the muffler burning off as the engine's running, gets hot, burns off the oil, pushes the oil out or the smoke out. Considering just looked at the spark arrestor and it's pretty nasty, or at least it was, I'm inclined to kind of believe that we have excess oil, and it kind of sounds like it's running a little bit lean. So the screw that's closest to the motor, what you need to do is you need to find a screwdriver. I'm lucky in the fact that this one only has a flathead, but if yours has any type of special screw, go on Amazon, eBay, and just type in 2-cycle carb drivers. Get a pack that's like 8 or 10 of them for a couple bucks. Buy the whole pack. Probably won't need all of them, you only need one. But in there, you're going to look at your screw and find the one that makes sense. There's spline, there's octagon, there's Pac-Man, whatever you need. Buy the pack, find the one, choose it. Once you have it chosen, now, side note, you can take the carb off and take like a Dremel and put a slot on it just to get it moving. I wouldn't recommend that because you're damaging potentially the carb, and you're drilling into, or you're cutting into metal, you're gonna have sparks. So if there's any fuel around, you kind of risk a fire. So that's the main point. I really don't care about the screws. So moving on, I think to start off with, I'm going to take my screwdriver and I'm going to turn this out a quarter of a turn. Let's see if that made any difference whatsoever. That bogging means it's lean. set too high. Still a little lean. Oh, no, it's not. Let us do that. I think a lot of that is the idle set too low. So let me grab that phone and I'll be right back. And there you have it. Everything should be good to go. So if you bought a recent carb and for your weed eater, especially if it's like this one, these are usually pretty out of tune when you buy it. Just needs a good tuning. So follow the instructions. Just if it's blue smoke, probably running too rich unless you see a lot of smoke in the muffler or oil on the muffler. In which case, you just need to get it hot, burn that out, do some fine tuning. A fast idle means it's a little lean, especially if it dies. Low idle can mean it's too rich, especially if it dies, and you see a lot of smoke. So you need to get a happy medium for the exact details. So I would definitely recommend watching that, tuning a 2-cycle. But as long as your spark arrestor is clean and you are tuning it correctly, should be good to go. Now, I did mention there's a couple things that could be happening, so let's go over those. First one, we didn't check the air filter, and that's because this is a new air filter. I would definitely check your air filter. That could be the problem. To be honest, even a dirty air filter is going to be okay, but unless it's like super dirty. If it's just generally dirty, it's not going to be all that bad. But here's the thing. If it's packed, you could be choking it out, so check that air filter. Secondly, another thing that could be happening is you could have installed the gaskets wrong. There's a little hole right here. And if you put the gasket on wrong and the gasket's covering that hole, it's not going to run right. Also, if you don't have enough fuel in there, or your fuel line is kind of crimped off to the side above the fuel line, you're not going to be able to tune it right, it's not going to run right, it's going to die. So make sure your fuel line is in the correct location in the bottom of the center of the tank, and it can move if it needs to. And then, unfortunately, the last one's going to be the hardest, but yeah, and more expensive. Your seals for your crank could be broken, or old, or cracked, or all the above. So you potentially could need new seals. How you know that is if you did try to tune it, and no matter what you do, it just goes high and low, high and low, high and low, high and low, and dies. Potentially could have a seal issue. You can have a couple other issues, but majority of the time, it's a seal. They're not that hard to take out. They're relatively inexpensive. You just need to take out the pull cord, take off the clutch, remove both seals, and put the new ones in. So, like we see, keep watching, subscribe, follow me on Instagram at SmallOrange101. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. If you like what you see, put a thumbs up. That helps me a lot. And if you have any real difficult issues and you need a little help on it, feel free to join my memberships. That is a perk. I will help you through whatever problem you have. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your night.